I'm Elsa Wolf. We were introduced before dinner. I'd like you to take me home. You could joke about the convicts and file clerks because you know there won't be any survivors, will there?
Not many.
None. None at all. That's the beauty of it.
I was thinking this morning about how difficult, necessary, and soul-killing it is to be a model or an actress. This, necessary narcissism, this self-indulgent, that's what brought it up. I was looking at my nails and I thought, oh my God. And, these hands used to do Revlon ads, but believe it or not, and they're really dreadful looking. And they get all chipped and so forth because of, I don't know, turpentine or something or other. And I never really look at them until Saturday. At 3 years old, I started modeling.
You did?
Yeah.
With who?
It was just like fashion shows and stuff like that.
Where was that?
This was in Chicago.
Uh-huh. And your mother decided she was going to put you in?
I didn't do it by myself.
Right, obviously.
Yeah. And then when I was a younger kid and we moved to the East Coast, she dragged me around New York.
Wow. You were 3, 4, 5.
6, 7, 8, 9.
You did print stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah. And,
yeah. The camera, I want the camera to imagine me 10 pounds thinner.
It's never right, is it?
No. I mean, it's just a dreadful business.
Right.
I mean, it really is. And and you see so much of it. I mean, I did as a makeup artist.
It's glamorized.
Guys, and, and everybody's getting, there's like nobody real left anymore. I mean,
well, so when you were a kid and you did this when you were 3, did you remember liking it or enjoying it?
Well,
having that attention on you, the cameras?
I was jerked around a lot. At least I didn't get beat up when I was, doing my little curtsy and dimples. Mother wanted me to be Shirley Temple and was vastly disappointed when I wasn't Shirley Temple. I mean, she was really...
Hello. Say, you catch on quick. Look out now. Here's your last one.
Very upset about that. It was the Depression,
Yes. Right.
Midst of the Depression.
So she saw you as possibly being her ticket out of that.
Yeah. I mean, I should be worth something, or I should be able to do something. Either that or I should marry a rich man.
Right.
I mean, marry a rich man.
Did you audition for shows out in there?
Yeah. Oh, I did a lot of things. I was the weather girl on television in Detroit. I mean, television was very new at this time, and they didn't know what to do. I also joined a pantomime group called the Gay Deceivers. I mean, I was the person who asked the questions of Tell Me Doctor. I did modeling at Hudson's, and I did ads for cars and things, and
You worked a lot.
trade. Oh yeah, I was surviving.
Right.
I mean, anything would be better than to be, I mean, what else? It just never occurred to me to be a whore or anything.
Right.
Just get out there and make a buck somehow. But I had come to New York. I had $300, and I went into the Plaza Hotel with $300, and went out and spent half of that on a fancy outfit, and went around to see Eileen Ford and the other agencies that were around. So that meant that I had to really move my ass. I had to get out there and make myself do it or sink. So I swam. In 1 week, I had seen half the photographers in New York and magazines, and and I was getting a lot of talk. I mean, people that business at that time was really small, so the word would go around as, "Here's a good one." But I mean, I really hustled. Do you know what I mean? I really went around, and and not everybody loved me, but anyway, a week later, Eileen Ford called me, said, "Darling, I've been hearing good things about you." I had very good skin because I had not gotten much sun, and I didn't have a blemish or a blister or a barnacle on my body like I do now. So I starved myself, and
What did you eat?
A grapefruit and coffee and vodka.
That was it.
Yeah, and also there was speed. I discovered speed.
This was in the late 50s.
No, this is the early 50s.
The early 50s?
Yes.
They had speed.
Oh my God, yes.
Where did you get speed from?
From Garraway.
Really?
The big love of my life. Yes. And there was this whole group of kind of like television people and showbiz people who had this red liquid called the Doctor.
Ooh.
And somebody in Chicago, the Doctor, made the Doctor. And some in folks had it. And you had a little, a teaspoon of this in the morning, and you could leap buildings in a single bounce and not sleep for days or eat, and and it's wonderful because you can get very, very thin and work like a son of a bitch.
Right.
And it was wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah. But then you get tired about not sleeping. I didn't sleep for about 10 years.
Wow.
And well, I did, but I mean, I would work all day and go out and play all night.
Right.
I mean, when you're on the cover of something, you get invited everywhere. People want you just for decoration, really, not for your great brain when you're a model. They want the latest decoration.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my, 15 seconds of fame, I got invited to a lot of really very interesting places.
Who'd you meet?
Interesting people.
Who did you meet?
I mean, everything from like Frank Sinatra to Clifford Odets to Bernard Baruch to Orson Welles to, I can't, Harold Arlen, I can't even remember. But I mean, there were certain ladies who would invite me to dinner that I was friends with, like Senator Jaffett's wife, Marion, and so on. And she would, invite me to dinner, and there would be something, very high-class pimping. No, not pimping, but it could be that way. Like here in the early 50s, there was the Army McCarthy hearings, that bastard with putting a lot of actors out of work, and who wanted to take me out but Roy Cohn and Walter Winchell and those smarmy guys, and that was kind of fun, interesting. Right. I'd always wear a red dress and say, "I'll meet you at the Russian tea room." I was a young kid. I'm 20, 21, something, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And one time I was at a nightclub with David Shine and Roy Cohn, and there was a singer. Maybe it was Lillian Roth or somebody like that. Anyway, I had, my private pissed off at these people anyway, because, friends of mine like Lee J. Cobb or Josh Shelley or, people, actors out of work because they were on a blacklist for no really good reason. So some writer friends of mine or Dalton Trumbo, Harry Kernitz had to go to Paris, and I thought it was just wildly unfair. But anyway, we're sitting at this nightclub table, and Roy has a telephone brought to his table, and he's said, I'm going to report this woman. I'm going to track down some dirt on this woman, meaning the singer.
Yeah.
And they brought my dessert, which was a Cherries Jubilee. So I floated $20 down on the table and took the Cherries Jubilee and put it on top of Roy Cohn's head. Now, this sounds outrageous, but I did it. It's in the congressional
Records that you did this. God bless you.
The next day, the guy who runs who ran the Russian tea room, I think it was Sidney Kay or something like that, sent me a box of orchids. He said, way to go, honey.
You're right.
It was like just a big joke there. He didn't let Roy Cohn, this poor sickie, didn't like it. But he was only going out with me for the decorative value. He had no idea that I was a person. He couldn't care less. I was, the latest decoration of the moment,
Yeah.
And most of those guys were like that. What I would do quite often was I would go to a cocktail party, and then my second date for the evening would be a theater critic, like Richard Watts for The Post or Harold Clurman, who was writing for The Nation then. It was wonderful because you'd go to opening nights. I went to opening night of My Fair Lady and things like that. But then they'd have to go and write their reviews. And so I would meet Leonard Lyons, who was a columnist for The Post, and I would go over to El Morocco with him. And then I'd, dance and so forth. And Truman was quite often a partner of mine. I'd take off my shoes and dance with him. He was still down to here. Mm-hmm. But he was fun, gossipy, We would dance until the chairs were on the table. Of course, I'm doing all of this on the Doctor.
Right.
Speed, wonderful speed.
Right, with a couple of cocktails.
And then we go to like P.J. Clark's and have a hamburger. And then he'd take me home, or whoever took me home. And but quite often it would be Truman or somebody's sake. He kept moving, you didn't get yourself fucked.
Right.
Right. So and then...
and Truman was safe.
He certainly was. Right. And I would take my bubble bath, and he would sit outside in the hall, and we would chat.
As you were in the bath?
As I was in the bath. And then, and like 7 or 8 o'clock roll around, I'd go to work.
It sounds like you were Holly Golightly.
Well, in a way.
Were you ever at a wild party like that, where everybody just got really drunk and kissed each other in the bathtub?
Of course.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes.
That was just a daily routine.
That was the scene, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, if it weren't for speed, I could never have done it.
Right. And it kept you slim and trim.
Oh, yeah.
In the meantime, you're going out and shooting fashion photography.
Right. And, that hollow-eyed looks really photographed well.
Right.
And it sort of kept me away from too much vodka, because vodka would make my skin puffy. I was doing a lot of beauty ads.
Right.
Revlon and Charles of the Ritz and those extreme close-ups of your skin.
Makeup.
Right.
Yeah.
And vodka didn't do well with my skin.
Right.
So speed was the perfect,
Did you ever drink in the
fashion? Oh, my
shoot?
goodness. That calendar that's in the kitchen?
Yes.
And the Harry Winston
It's a Chesterfield,
jewels.
Isn't it?
Yes, the Chesterfield ad.
Uh-huh.
And the Harry Winston jewels and the gown and the hair and the nails and and so on. And they're putting all of this together expensively. And then they'd notice I didn't have any cleavage. I mean, I was flat as a board there. You got to imagine me 50 pounds ago. So they said, well, we could get something out of there. And they strapped my little titties, you know, up there so that they would have some sort of cleavage. And I was blushing pink. I mean, pink, orange, sunset. And the photographer, John Rawlings, bless his soul, he said, well, we'll give her a drink. You know, I mean, we can't have this blushing. It's color. Right. Well, okay. That taught me a very deep lesson. Which is, you know, anytime I was uncomfortable, I had a little drink, a little drinky poo. It did give me a lot more permission. I mean, it was about then, I'm getting around my middle 20s, and would stop at Schraff's, where, you know, where we could, there were other models who did this too, and we would meet for lunch. I mean, Patchett and Sonny Harnett and Dovima, and, you know, and we would have these dainty little cocktails for lunch, and then go to the booking. And, you know, in every Vogue shot, every time they did a layout or so, they'd always have like champagne and things like that. I mean, great catered lunch. Scavullo, for instance, I mean, you know, he'd have a white gloved butler serving all sorts of doody-das. He gave me, for Christmas one time, mescaline. He did? Yeah. Did you take it? Party favors, of course.
And how'd it feel to you? Did you like it?
No, it scared me.
It did.
Because I was weird enough without that. You know?
So then what happened after that? I mean, did you just keep doing a lot of fashion and then?
Well, I really needed some sleep, so I got married. Oh. Yeah, I married another alcoholic, unfortunately. Oh. And we did a lot of Scott and Zelda all over Europe, and he was making spaghetti westerns, and I would work over there, and, you know, and we would get drunk.
You do fashion still?
Yeah, I was still doing fashion, or I would go back to New York, make a lot of money, go back to Europe. I mean, it was that kind of Dolce Vita time, and we had some public brawls, and I mean, really, really sad. And had a baby, and he left.
Uh-huh.
So much for marriage.
Right.
So much for, you know, vows.
Right.
He just couldn't handle the responsibility, I think. But his viewpoint was, if it was a boy, I'd stay. Really? A girl needs her mother, a boy needs a father. What else was his brilliant comments? You make plenty of money, you take care of it. And I mean, you couldn't handle the responsibility of a crippled child.
Mm-hmm. So you came back to New York and worked here?
Worked, and you know, and got through all of our little operations and so forth, and I was acting.
How'd you get fail-safe?
I don't know. I mean, it was typecasting. It was.
Did you audition?
A drunken and crazy bitch, and so they cast me.
Not your kind.
You know, I didn't have to act at all. There I was.
What happened after that?
Are you really interested in all of it? I was very interested in finding a father for her, because I found it, you know, an extreme burden to be, you know, carrying this whole. I had a baby nurse I brought from Italy who was wonderful, Giovanna Pope. Papa. Giovanna Papa. Joan Pope. And she was great, thank God. And but I found it quite a struggle to keep this whole thing, you know, going. I was looking for a father for her. And, it's very dangerous for me to be in California without any work. And once I had 2 weeks off in between, and I got married. You see what I mean? This is dangerous. I met this this weight doctor, went around giving people like Debbie Reynolds shots in the fanny, keep her wonderfully thin and cellulite free. And that was one of your typical Hollywood marriages, 2 weeks.
You married the weight doctor?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he had these great shots and pills and,
How long did that last?
About 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
He spanked my daughter, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, the day we got married, he spanked me, which I thought was, maybe it's cute, sort of. But he spanked my daughter, and no, that's the end of that. And then I found another. See, the criterion I had for these guys was they had a child around my daughter's age, and were relatively stable. A doctor looked stable. It turned out he was wackier than anybody I'd ever known. And then there was another man who had a daughter, my daughter's age. And then I met a man who was really kind of solid, stolid, straight-laced. And he had 4 kids, but they were older.
Uh-huh.
And he loved my daughter. I mean, he adored Melanie. He really did. And so I married him. He was thrilled with me, too, because I introduced him to pot.
Oh.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
It turned out that he had hepatitis. He was drinking too much, and he stopped drinking because the hepatitis scared him. But, I was his source of pot. So, we served each other's addictions. Mine for security and his for
a high.
A high.
A lot of highs.
Right.
5 different highs.
Right.
And how long were you with him?
6, 7 years, something like that. Anyway, we had just been married a couple of months, and his youngest son, who was, I think, 15 at the time, had been kicked out of school for the umpteenth time, or the umpteenth school, or whatever, for drugs. And he was living with us, and their mother was dying of cancer, which is why Rick wanted to get married right away. I mean, he's one of these fellows who swing from tit to tit, and he never lets go of the last tit until he's got a firm grip on the next tit. And so the tit that he had in hand was dying of cancer, and it was a great, terrible thing. But I didn't realize this. I mean, self-absorbed little me, wouldn't ask any questions or try to find out anything or what I was getting involved in. But anyway, she died shortly after we married. And it was Martin Luther King Day, actually. I had found a list in my desk, and Christopher was staying in my little office den bar room. And I found in my desk there this long list that Christopher had written out about, I've been taking these drugs and I'm dealing these drugs and so forth. And I took this to Rick, and I said, we got to get him some help. Not recognizing, of course, that I needed any help, or he did, but this poor young boy. And we confronted him, and saying we should, go to a therapist, or we didn't know what to do. This is when was this? The 60s, and Christopher gave me a big whack. Actually, I think he wanted to hit his father, but he
hit you.
With all the power of LSD and God knows STP or whatever he was on, knocked out all the teeth on this side, cut my mouth very badly, and chipped molars, like, 8 molars were chipped, and the whole bunch of teeth on this side gone.
Wow.
And
He really hit you with a mighty force.
yeah. And so they did plastic surgery a couple times.
Wow.
But for a long while, they couldn't do anything because my mouth was ripped. And they couldn't open my mouth to take care of the teeth. And I couldn't eat. So I just sipped vodka from a straw and thought, oh my God, my life is over.
Right.
And I have no face.
Right.
What am I but a face? All I was this face that I had made a living off of for a long time. And boy, that was quite a blow.
Oh, literally, yes.
Yeah.
What drugs were these that you were on?
Thorazine, stelazine, lithium. We had to have the blood tested once a week to see, should you have more lithium or less lithium. And to give you a picture of my state of mind, I was making pottery at this time, and I was making lithium glazes.
Ooh, what's that?
Well, a glaze on a piece of pottery with lithium in it.
Oh, wow.
And I would do 10% lithium and 20% 30% lithium. Ooh, look at what that does to the glaze. And never thinking that it didn't do anything to me, of course. And I was not supposed to drink with this lithium because, my psychiatrist said that I would get a little high. Actually, the side effects of lithium and alcohol is death. And but I really found out how impossible it was for me to stop drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't stop for the lithium.
I couldn't stop. And I would get through maybe a month or a couple of weeks or something or other, and then I'd be doing something really craven, like sneak a small little paper cup of wine at some art show, oh God, the guilt. And then, I would sleepwalk, find myself in the kitchen, drinking, cooking sherry. I had to have it. I had to have some alcohol. And,
what did you do?
well, I had to start to think, which I hadn't bothered with prior to that. My husband decided he wanted a divorce. And because I was saying that, I need to go to AA. No wife of mine is going to go to AA, and what will people think? And you don't tell those people your name, do you? And all of that. And he was very upset about.
So it was okay for you to drink, but not to get better.
Oh, of course not. I realized later on, when we were in the throes of divorce, and I was, we were sharing the beach house or the ski house and so on, and I would go there and he'd, my half or whatever, and he'd have liquor bottles out there. And I said to him one time, you really want me to drink again, don't you? And he said with unusual candor, I can't control you when you're sober. Yes, now that's sort of the cornerstone of that marriage. So, anyway, that broke up and I got to AA. And boy, that was something. It was really scary to being off all the drugs. And it took me like 3 days to get dressed. You got to picture this outfit. I had on a floor-length fur coat, green fur coat, and a green slouch hat like Greta Garbo, and green suede pants, and this white silk, blouse open down to here, and pearls, and red platform shoes, boots, Halston, and went to not Renaissance, something else, Trafalgar, was it? Well, anyway, you come into this meeting and they're talking about God and the steps, and it sounded like you were talking about in Chinese or Mandarin or something. I mean, about letting go. I'd never heard such language. The one thing that I felt here is where I would learn to be my own person. Of course, I couldn't be because I was owned by all manner of psychotropic drugs and material crap, and I was owned by these things. I think that about the second week that I was in the program, I heard this wonderful man, Dandi, talk about racing thoughts and fiery imagination. And I said, this man knows what's going on here. And at this time, I was seeing auras around people and getting strange messages. And
do you think that was coming off of drugs, or do you think you were
coming off of drugs?
Uh-huh.
No, it was definitely woo-woo time. Not anything real. And but anyway, he said, well, we can talk on the phone, and you can call me anytime. But you have to go to the Zen Study Society and meditate, and go to AA meetings in equal proportion. I was really scared to go to that Zendo. I mean, it was frightening. I did what they told me to do, and I was afraid that they could read my mind and they would hit me with that big stick if I didn't count my breath exactly right. And so I did it, and it started to work, because any sustained time in that alpha wave, you see, recharges that serotonin that we're so terribly depleted, norepinephrine, and so on, that all of this, like a battery, gets recharged when you're in that sustained alpha wave state. That's why we need to sleep, because we get it, in that too. And then just gradually I began to function again and go back to work.
Do you think the meditation healed you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, honey, I was a wacko. I mean, really. Wacko.
How often did you meditate at that time?
Every day.
You did?
Yeah.
How long?
It varied. I mean, it grew. It grew from 5 minutes to 25 minutes to 45 minutes to 55 minutes, whatever.
And you say you counted breaths and you just sort of sustained a quiet calmness in your mind.
Yes, I focusing on the breath, and the breath will gradually sink lower and lower. The diaphragm drops. The breathing slows from. Generally, we breathe about 20 to 30 breaths a minute, and your breathing will slow to 2 or 3 breaths a minute. So it's just like you're almost not breathing at all. It's it's pre-sleep. But with meditation, you have this and this and this and this and this. But with meditation, you say, oh, okay, we'll be mindful of this now, and then we'll go over here. Slowly, everything got very tidy in my life. Like even my little sewing box, it's all tidy. I don't know what it is. It's kind of it's a side effect of meditation. I mean, my bills are paid. I got something in the bank. I mean, everything is working well. I know how to notice the rise of trouble, notice the rise of anger. I know how to make a decision to duck that one. I don't have to have that drama. It was very healthy, very practical.
You decided you were going to do something and you did it, and in when you first moved to the plaza, and then when you did Italy, and then even when you did the meditation, you decided you were going to do it and you did it. And I don't know, is there something that you can say that makes you turn? It's like you flip a switch and you say, it's a mind thing. You decided, you made a decision.
I was 15 years old, and well, it was just I'm an only child living with my mother, who was drinking crazy and really hated me. As I, 13, 14, I mean, I was starting to look really pretty, and it was really a horror for my mother, who was divorced at this point, and young, but anyway, she had a terrible temper, and I would get the strap all the time. I mean, these were the sane beatings were with the strap. The other ones were like, being hit with whatever came to hand, a shoe, a ruler, a hairbrush, a teapot, or, anything, you get bashed with that. But the regular routine was this being beaten with the belt. And I had to go fetch my own instrument of torture, which was the belt of her riding pants, and then kneel with my head in this blue chair to cover up my face, and then I would get, I don't know, 10 for this and 5 for that, and whatever, until one time, here I'm 15, I'm about 3 months, I think it was, short of 16, which is a grown-up person after all. And she told me to go get the strap, and I'm going down this long hall to her bedroom, and I'm wetting my pants. And I thought, this is really undignified. I'm going to be 16, and I'm wetting my pants, just somebody saying, go get the strap. So I got the strap, and I'm, peeing. It always happens, I mean, even today, if somebody is standing there with the belt in their hand, I find a little, surge. And anyway, so I come back in the living room this is a big moment in my life. She is there. She says, hand me the strap. And I hit her. I mean, it was just like I hadn't done anything up until that moment. And there was just a holy battle. I mean, I tried to call the police. She got the telephone cord around my neck. She bit my fingers. And I mean, it was really a crash down, screaming, battle. And and she locked me in my room, in the closet or whatever. And I had this little tiny suitcase, and I put something or other in it, and I bailed out the window, and I hitchhiked to my school, where Father Duffy kept me in the rectory till we found my father, who was working with the Navy intelligence at that time. And because Father Duffy saw me coming to school with black eyes and bite marks and so forth, and and he'd ask me, well, how did that happen? And I'd say, a snowball fight or something. But this was too much. And I hitchhiked to Father Duffy. And Father Duffy got my father and put me on the train to my father. And I was escaped from Mama. But I think that, that's where all of this kind of survival instinct pops up, I had living in me this Nazi who chattered at me all the time. I mean, the kind of mother I have, stupid, ugly, called me all sorts of names. And oddly enough, the little Nazi in my head would call me stupid, ugly, you ought to be dead kind of thing. You're too short, you're too tall, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too something or other. I mean, this was going on all the time. And I remember precisely the day. This was such an enlightening thing. I had been working on this. I don't think, maybe I was 3 or 4 years sober at this point, and I had been battling with this, the noise in my head. And I was jogging in the park, and prior to this, I had have to ask, and I didn't even know I was a slave to this bad habit of having to ask the Nazi all the time, is it all right to sit down? Is it all right to stand up? Is it all right to have a sip of tea? Is it all right to, and usually the Nazi said no. Mm-hmm. And so I'm jogging in the park and I asked the Nazi, is it all right for me to throw my arms open wide as I run? And the Nazi said, no, you stupid. Yeah, you. And I said, fuck you. And it was just like, I mean, to have this kind of visceral awakening to the crap that's going on in your head and being able to say, no, it's
great freedom.
It's wonderful. Mm-hmm. But that was, as I say, 2 or 3 years of meditation and the program and so forth before I had the courage to go at the Nazi. I mean, that Nazi had really run my life, my entire life. From my failure to be Shirley Temple to right up to the present moment,
And so now you're coming up on 30 years.
30.
Of no drugs or alcohol in your system whatsoever.
No.
And
I like chocolate.
You do like chocolate.
I've learned a lot of self-respect in my life, which, when you're stepping on the hot coals, you run faster.
Yes. Is that similar to some of the stuff that Eido Roshi, your Zen teacher, taught you about your mind and how to think, or?
Yeah, I think that, being able to separate what thinking is and what is actually going on. What is what is going on, or nature's wonderful, right?
It is. It does take care of us too. And it's the thing, I think, that you were talking about, the survival mechanism within you pulled you away from a difficult situation, even though it was what your mind told you were supposed to do. Stay there with your mother or with those husbands. But the nature in you
wants to be its own person.
Got you loose. Well, Nancy, is there something else you want to say?
Well, I have a wonderful story about Eido Roshi.
Yes.
This is a great story. You know how you do these long meditations in the morning, and there's like 2 hours of meditation. You're supposed to, sit up straight with the straight spine and watch your breath inside. And one morning, one of the students leaned on the wall, and Eido Roshi, just carelessly with a little smile, said, if you lean on that wall and you don't develop your own spine, you'll have to carry that wall around with you wherever you go. And this was like a little epiphany, because, it spun through my mind everything I had leaned on, drugs and alcohol and chocolate and men and, everything I thought I needed to make me okay, to hold me up, to, that I wasn't developing my own spine because I was leaning on so much other stuff. It was such a good little lesson, such a good, an analogy about how you become a person. You don't lean on anything else.
Very strong.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great story, Nancy. Thank you for taking me through it.
Oh, all right. I gotta pee.